Well, joining us to discuss this important and controversial subject of diaspora voting is Anbrose Igboke, public affairs analyst. Anbrose, it's good to have you join us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me this morning.
Yes, good. I'd like to share your thoughts on, the subject, the fact that the House of Representatives or lawmakers are considering reintroducing a bill that was rejected during the constitutional amendment. What are your thoughts?
First of all, it is premature. It is not right for Nigeria to have diaspora voting. First of all, we should know that the diaspora means that Nigerians who live abroad, who live outside the shores of this country. The funny thing is that if you ask the Nigerian government or the Bureau for Statistics or the Foreign Affairs Ministry or National Population Commission, whoever is responsible for, gathering the statistics, if you ask any of those agencies to give you a correct figure of Nigerians living in the diaspora, they don't even have it. So that is where to start from, to actually know that, how many Nigerians are not in the shores of this country. So we don't even know how many Nigerians are in Nigeria, then talk less of how many Nigerians outside Nigeria. The last time we had a census that was official was in 2006. And ever since we have been using estimates from the World Health Organization and estimates from the United Nations. So a country that have not done its own census since 2006, more than a decade, how do you want to plan? Secondly, Nigeria's electoral system does not have e-voting. You cannot do diaspora voting without even having electronic voting in your own system. So locally, as a country, nationally, even the latest electoral acts, which is 2022, does not have e-voting, electronic voting. What it has is electronic transmission of results, that after we have voted manually, the collation is done, and then the results are transmitted through electronic means. That's what we still have. So how do you want the Nigerians in diaspora to vote? Are they going to do the manual voting we are doing? How is it going to be transmitted? Are we going to have electoral officers overseas? So people who do diaspora voting are people who have already, have it as a culture that e-voting has been engraved in the system, and they've been using e-voting for a very long time. What it means is that any Nigerian anywhere in the world that has been certified to be a Nigerian can easily go online to a portal, to INEC portal, and vote through the portal. And this voting is collated in a central system and is counted. If it is a valid vote, it is counted as valid. If it is invalid, it is counted as invalid. But until we are able to attain the level of e-voting, diaspora voting cannot work.
Okay, but let's also look at the concerns. You have talked about not understanding the number of persons that we have in terms of population census, and they are saying that they're very accurate, especially with the report of how many Nigerians are not in Nigeria. Those in diaspora, 1.7 million persons, looking at, the figures, however. But one of the things that the reintroduction of this bill is considering is the fact that if you have the Independent National Electoral Commission, which they say would, throw their weight behind it, and the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, the bill would see the light of day. That's the belief, of this argument.
Well, first of all, the 1.7 million is an estimate from the United Nations. Again, we allow people to estimate for us. That is the problem we have been having. We do not even have our own statistics. And because we don't have our own statistics, the rest of the world helps us to estimate. It is highly contestable by my own opinion that just 1.7 million Nigerians that are in the diaspora. I don't agree with that statistics, no matter where it's coming from. We recognize the fact that UK government, even earlier this year, we know the number of Nigerian doctors and nurses working in the UK alone. They always have almost 50,000. And then when you go to other people in other sectors and professions, then we count. So I don't. That is highly contestable. Remember that in 2018 or 17, the Honorable Abika Erewa has said, David Erewa said that it was estimated it was 50 million Nigerians in the diaspora. So these figures have been bandied around because we don't even have the accurate figure. And we should remember the last 3 or 4 years, the number of Nigerians that left the shores of this country is amazing. It's unsettling. In my estate where I used to live in Lagos alone, I remember that in 2019, 4 families left a street, a short street, a street of just like 200 meters. I mean, 4 families left. And then nowadays, you call your friends, and the next day, the person is posting pictures in the diaspora. So a lot of people are even leaving, and it's alarming. The rate is alarming. So first of all, I think this bill is premature. We should first of all start to gather to know the number of our citizens. So the NIN, the National Identification Number, the process should be intensified and let them Nigeria be brought to that dragnet. Then we need to also, how do those people register their voters card? You can see what we are passing through even locally to get a voters card. A lot of people have not been able to get it because it's still very, very, in terms of collecting it, it's manually still being transmitted. But INEC has improved, at least you can register online. I mean, I did a change of location from my voting just through the pressing my phone. So INEC has improved greatly on that. But we still need a situation where, the picking of the card and other things can, be improved. We can even have e-cards, so that people can actually have their voters card online and can use it to vote. So we are not there yet. So we should not be thinking of diaspora voting. We should be thinking of harnessing diaspora potentials for now to see how, can we do, Nigerians do mini census where they are? Can Nigerians in each state, for example, United States, try to see how many Nigerians are there, or Nigerian High Commission or Nigerian embassies in different countries in the world, try to even do an estimate of how many Nigerians so that we can properly plan. And secondly, the election, we need to strengthen our electoral system first before including diaspora voting. Remember that it is a gradual process. We are gradually trying to leave the issue of fully manual voting in 2015. Now we have introduced the beavers. So it's a gradual process. We are looking forward to a situation where, although we cannot fully eliminate paper voting, even in the United States, they are still using paper voting, but at least we can minimize it, and that a situation where 80% of our voting is done online. When we have been able to achieve that, then within Nigeria, we can now start looking for Nigerians in diaspora who can now vote through electronic means. That is the only time you can say diaspora voting.
So, as we look at it now, do you think that ahead of, we just have a few months before the 2023 elections, do you think that it's feasible, for this to become a thing, for it to become a reality ahead of 2023? With the fact that this is also being considered, we're looking at a bill that was rejected, and the fact that there might be consideration to reintroduce it. And do you see this also becoming a reality ahead of 2023 elections?
It shouldn't be a reality. It shouldn't be considered a reality. For now, Nigerians should reject that bill because I don't know what is being planned. Why are you a few days to the election, after we have gotten a brand new electoral act in 2022, you come back in the same 2022 and you want to introduce a law, another law that will cause confusion for us? Please, let's allow this election to hold. And after the election has held, we can now plan towards 2027. If there are things we want to introduce to new electoral act, we can bring new electoral act. That is why the lawmakers are there, to seek for the improvement of the process. But you cannot, in a few elections that are happening in less than in just a few months' time, you want to introduce a new law into it. That will derail, or that will, in the process, make INEC to be distracted. And we don't want INEC to be distracted. We don't want people to be distracted. We also don't want court cases to arise from any law that may be introduced between now and February. Because the question will be, is the law that you're going to introduce, diaspora voting, is it part of the Electoral Act? And that is the question that we'll ask. So anything that will distract us from this election should be avoided. And for now, the House of Assembly the House of Representatives should step down this diaspora voting for 2077 election.
Well, but what happens to, the argument that's also been put out? For instance, the fact that these are Nigerians, and if you look at the contribution of those in diaspora to the Nigerian economy, it cannot be overlooked. So how do we now, look at this? Also, paying attention to the fact that this is where the world is toying. I mean, this is what's happening. The world is moving towards diaspora voting, and should we be left out of it?
And we shouldn't be left out. The world, I mean, when you calculate when United States of America became adult franchise, universal suffrage, and when they introduced their own diaspora voting, you find out that it was a gradual process. You cannot pull the cart before the horse has to pull the cart. Therefore, just because other countries have gotten their own acts right, we have not gotten our own right. We cannot just jump. This bandwagon effect is what has been killing us as a country. You just jump because the United States is doing it, because other countries are doing it, without asking some salient questions. What are the infrastructure that other countries have? What are the processes that the other countries that are practicing it have? Do they have this gap we have of not having the statistics of our population, only relying just on estimates only? I mean, we have not done census, as I said earlier, since 2006. That is frightening. And that is 16 years ago. Now, we have not even done our own internal census. We don't even know how many we are. Remember the fight to put in electronic transmission of results in the Electoral Act. It was a big war. And finally, it succeeded. So we are not even, our internet is not, sometimes you thought you are using the internet is gone. So we are not even have first of all, the basic infrastructure. We are not doing e-voting in Nigeria. You cannot do diaspora voting without e-voting. So the first thing is to even put e-voting in your electoral act and make it a law. So all this talk about diaspora voting without e-voting, I think it's an exercise, a mere academic, rigmarole. It's not going to work. The House of Representatives should, look towards a situation where in the next election cycle, which is after 2023, which is 2027, we will have e-voting as part of the electoral law. Once we have e-voting as part of electoral law, making diaspora voting to be possible will be very easy. Without that, it's going to be Herculean trying to, make voters. How do they vote? Are they going to are we going to ship or export manual voter ballot papers to United States and every country that we have Nigerians? So let's stop playing to the gallery and face the reality of our existence.
All right. Just before I let you go, how far do you think we have fared with participation of people living with disabilities and the displaced persons in our elections? Do you think that these persons have been disenfranchised or they have been enfranchised to be part of the electoral process over time?
Well, we have earlier on between the 1990 and 2007 to 2011, there were not much consideration for those people. But recently, there are a lot of social inclusions for people with disability, for the people with that have been, because of flood, isolated and in IDP camps and are displaced. There have been a lot of efforts recently to include them in the electoral process. We have had situations where registration, INEC took registration to IDP camps. We've seen where INEC has created temporary wards in IDP camps to enable people vote. So there have been a lot of progress in that. And we always, encourage INEC and other agencies that are working on that to ensure that we can get more results in that. But when it comes to people with disability, the way the country is structured socially, it's still a long way to go when we talk about social inclusion with people with disability. But a lot is happening. Developmental partner projects like the World Bank, the IMF, the USAID, and other international agencies have started making it compulsory for people with disability to have some certain kind of ration in whatever implementation you are doing in projects. And that has also started spreading. So what we can do is that government should evolve a policy where a certain percentage or ration is reserved for people with disability in office, just like women are clamoring that there's such a percentage should be left for women in the public office. So also we should think of people with disability and special needs. So because they're also citizens and part of us. And also in the election, if there are, like we're talking about the introduction of braille machine, braille process in terms of voting. There was a time INEC was talking about that around some years back with I think a friend of mine who is late now, Professor Nick Igboke, tried to introduce what they call braille ballot paper, where a blind person can come put his hand in a braille ballot paper and will be able to vote just by filling the paper and having some braille insignia in it. So these are things INEC can continue to explore and pursue and ensure that maybe by the 2027 election, we should have braille ballot papers. And that way, the blind can vote. And we should have a special means of transporting those who are physically handicapped, especially those who have no means to work. In that way, we have had a complete social inclusion. It's a gradual process. If we start and then we can, by the time in the next 10 years, we have achieved a good percentage of social inclusion for people with disability and special needs.
All right, but that's the much we can actually take. But in just a few seconds, I'd like you to share your thoughts. We're inching closer to the elections. We're talking about voting, and we have, situations where officers of the umpire is under attack. Might not necessarily be the first, but your thoughts. What do you think that we need to be paying attention to at this time? Very critical as we inch closer to the election.
We should be paying critical attention this time around to the security of the people that are going to work in the election. Now, unlike before, where the perpetrators of this attack wait for electoral officers to leave the venue of the election because they are carrying ballot boxes, they may be attacked on the way or go to a collation center, they attack them and the rest. INEC should know that because of the introduction of electronic transmission of results, that the battle for attack of a lot of their officers will be at the polling units this time around. Because it is right there, if we have to follow the process of transmission of results through electronic means, it is there that the perpetrators of violence will want to ensure that the results are not transmitted. Because this time around, they are not going to wait. Snatching ballot boxes has almost become useless. Therefore, they are not going to wait for ballot. So, the polling units, we should ensure that the polling units are properly secured. All forms of intelligence gathering and all forms of, armed forces should be on ground. Even if the local JTF can be recruited to ensure, just to especially preventive acts, because it has been found out that, for example, if people, the military personnel or the policemen or armed forces are told not to be armed to come to election polling units. But again, we have seen a situation where people thugs come with guns, machetes, and all kinds of things, and come to the venue, and then the policeman or whoever is the armed forces personnel who is there is incapacitated because he has no gun. There's nothing he can do. He has no taser. He has nothing. So I think we should review the security situation to see how the polling units themselves can be safer this time around.
Well, Anbrose Igboke, thank you so much for being part of the show this morning. We do appreciate your thoughts. It's been very insightful, all that you have shared.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then. We have been speaking with a public affairs analyst, Anbrose Igboke, joining us right there, looking at the issue of diaspora voting and the fact that lawmakers are reconsidering or considering reintroduction of that bill, seeking to amend some certain part of the Constitution just to allow those who live abroad to vote. We've had his thoughts right here, and I hope that relevant quarters will pay attention to all of the concerns and high points that have been raised. That's it this morning. We take a short break. When we return, it'll be time for us to look at the fact that there's also a scare concern following recent attacks on INEC officers across the country. Stay with us.